Governments in Europe are coming under fire after one of this year's deadliest shipwrecks in the Mediterranean involving migrants. Jan Egeland, head of humanitarian group the Norwegian Refugee Council, says Europe is fueling the fire of conflict in Libya and worsening the situation of migrants there. At least 70 migrants are now thought to have drowned after leaving northwest Libya on Thursday. Their boat capsized near the Kerkennah Islands off Sfax in Tunisia. The Tunisian Navy was able to rescue 16 people. This was Jan Egeland's reaction.
It's all of us Europeans' responsibility to avoid this mass hemorrhage of human lives in the Mediterranean. We were shocked that 250 people died crossing the Berlin Wall during a generation of Cold War. And now we seem to accept 2,500 or more people dying per year in the Mediterranean. It's a damning verdict of the so-called European civilization. We cannot have that happening.
Now, Italy's populist government opposes mass migration. It's long pursued a closed port policy and is being accused of restricting the work of humanitarian groups. On Friday, 30 people who were rescued were allowed to disembark in Lampedusa after other European countries agreed to host them. But Italy promptly seized the rescue vessel. And the far-right Interior Minister Matteo Salvini declared in a tweet it would be the last trip for the ship.
Rescued from a sinking ship. An Italian boat, the Mare Jonio, run by a humanitarian charity, saved them 40 kilometres off the Libyan coast. The 30 migrants, including 2 pregnant women and 5 children, according to the NGO, are just a few of the thousands of people who have already attempted to cross the Mediterranean this year. According to Italy's anti-migration Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini, Italy's ports are closed to illegal migrants. But these people, landing in Lampedusa, Sicily, are lucky. Italy's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte allowed the ship to dock. The Mare Jonio staff applaud the migrants, but this might have been its last mission. I've spoken to Salvini about the Mare Jonio, and we agree on the police seizing the ship. The ship was already on a warning. This ship is one of the very few rescue ships still in operation in the Mediterranean. Conte said other European Union member states had agreed to take some of these people, a sign that the EU's migrant distribution agreements are working, albeit on an ad hoc basis. Although far fewer people are headed to Europe than at the peak of migration in 2015, thousands still take the perilous journey every month. And as summer brings better weather conditions, the number of attempted crossings is likely to increase.
Chris Grodotzki is a member of Sea-Watch, one of the aid organisation operating rescue ships in the Mediterranean. Thanks so much for joining us today. Italy's leadership impounded a charity ship yesterday. Is it really still realistic for organisations like yours to continue their rescue work in the Mediterranean?
Well, it has become increasingly more difficult over the past 2 years, where there has been a massive criminalisation campaign and a campaign of telling people that we would collaborate with the smugglers in some way. But none of these charges have ever proven true in front of a court. So we've heard this talk before about ships never going out again from Italian politicians, and this so far also hasn't proven true, although, yeah, as I said, it is increasingly more difficult. But on the other hand, our ship, the Sea-Watch 3, was now just ruled by court that the blockade of the Netherlands was unlawful, and we are sailing out again very soon to the search and rescue zone to continue our operations there.
OK. Now, the number of people arriving in Europe has dropped dramatically in recent years. Could one argue that Italy is actually doing the right thing by deterring people from embarking on what is a very dangerous, often a deadly journey?
Well, no. Migration flows act under very difficult laws. That is not one policy of one country changing a whole migration flow. There are a lot of reasons why people are not going to Libya anymore, why people are choosing other routes, why there are not as many people coming at all anymore. On the other hand, the death rate in the Mediterranean, so the ratio from people who leave the African shores or even the people who arrive in Europe, to those who die on the journey has skyrocketed in the last 2 years.
Critics of organisations like yours say that you're providing an incentive for migrants to cross the Mediterranean. What's your response to that?
Well, that is totally illogic. I mean, our organisation was founded because people were dying in the Mediterranean. People have been dying in the Mediterranean since the 70s, since actually the EU closed its borders and discontinued a very open visa regime and started the border regime that we know today with closing of the borders further and further. I can only say people have been dying there before we came, and people are dying there now that there are almost no rescue ships left in the area. And there are lots of more boats in the past couple of days without any rescue ships around.
Chris Grodotzki from Sea-Watch, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.